Welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. In this explainer, titled Historical Context and Design Goals, we're picking up exactly where we left off in our previous lesson, What is Nakamoto Consensus? Now that we've got a solid grasp on what this consensus mechanism is on a surface level, we're going to shift our focus from the what to the why. We're going to reverse engineer this system together and dig into the fascinating historical drivers and explicit design objectives that actually shaped it. Looking at our agenda for today, we're going to cover context and the problem, the evidence stamp metaphor, core design goals, the engineering trade-offs, and we'll wrap up with practical principles. All right, diving right into Section 1, context and the problem. So let's step back to 2008. The network was facing a massive hurdle, known as the double spend problem. Without a central bank playing referee to say, hey, you already spent that dollar, what's to stop someone from buying a coffee and then turning right around and using that exact same digital coin to buy a donut? The network literally had to figure out how to solve this while keeping its doors completely wide open for anyone to join. But here's the catch. Having those wide open doors creates a huge vulnerability called a Sybil attack. In a purely digital space, a malicious actor could literally just sit in their basement, paste on 1,000 fake digital mustaches, spin up countless fake IP addresses, and just completely hijack the network's voting system. Which brings us to Section 2, the evidence stamp metaphor. So how do you stop all those fake identities without asking everyone for a passport? Well, Nakamoto introduced a brilliantly heavy-duty physical constraint. You can think of proof of work like an impossibly heavy, expensive rubber stamp. If an attacker wants to fake a transaction, they'd have to sweat profusely, physically restamping thousands of pages, all while the honest network effortlessly outpaces them. And honestly, the sheer genius of this setup is the asymmetry. Pushing that stamp down costs massive, real-world computing power and energy. It is incredibly expensive to produce. But for anyone else on the network to verify that the stamp is real, it's just simple math. It's cheap and instantaneous. The system essentially converts raw electricity into undeniable proof of effort. Now, this introduces what we call probabilistic finality. There's no magical transaction-approved chime that goes off instantly. Instead, every new stamped page placed on top of your transaction acts as a confirmation. And with every single layer added, reversing your transaction goes from being just really hard to wildly expensive to mathematically impossible. It's basically a growing mountain of evidence. Moving on to Section 3, core design goals. The goals here were incredibly ambitious. First up, permissionless participation. Absolutely anyone must be able to join and propose blocks without needing anyone's authorization. Second, Sybil resistance via resources. Like we said, if you want to attack the network, you can't just spoof an IP address. You actually have to burn real-world resources to even try and cheat. And finally, incentive alignment. Honest miners must be economically rewarded through block rewards and fees. This makes playing by the rules the absolute most rational financial strategy. But to keep this whole system perfectly stable, even as thousands of new computers plug in or drop out, the network uses an automatic difficulty adjustment. It's basically a thermostat. If these stamps are being produced way too fast, the system automatically cranks up the puzzle's difficulty. Too slow? It cools it right down. This ensures the heartbeat of the network stays perfectly predictable no matter what. But looking at all this heavy, probabilistic stamping and waiting around, you might be wondering, why not just design a system where transactions are final immediately? Wouldn't that just be way easier for buying that coffee? Well, that takes us to Section 4, the engineering trade-offs. Because as we know with any complex system design, you really can't have it all. Securing a totally open network means deliberately accepting massive energy consumption as the strict cost of doing business. And choosing a global longest chain rule, that means you have to accept that finality simply takes time rather than happening instantly. These aren't bugs. They are highly deliberate, necessary engineering compromises. The system intentionally trades away raw, blazing fast transaction speed in favor of unbreakable single-block security. By going a bit slower, it ensures the entire world has enough time to agree on the work that's been done, which prevents chaotic splits or forks in the network. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, practical principles. So, how do we translate this historical blueprint into everyday heuristics? Keep these 3 principles in your back pocket. Number 1, finality is a confidence function that grows over time with accumulated work. Number 2, network security isn't just about clever code. It equates directly to a real-world resource majority. And number 3, raw speed is always the first thing traded away when you demand true, permissionless decentralization. This sets the perfect stage for our next lesson in the track, Mechanics and Components of Nakamoto Consensus. Now that we know the why, we're going to break down exactly how these goals and trade-offs are implemented into actual data structures. But before we jump to the code, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. If you were designing a global system today, how much speed would you willingly sacrifice to guarantee that absolutely anyone on Earth could participate without asking for permission? Keep that in mind as you continue your journey. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. To dive into the actual code mechanics we just talked about and to explore more incredible Web3 topics, make sure to head over to forge.college. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.